Hello and welcome back, adventurers. Today, let us continue a tale of Tepest with its history and myths. Tepestani history begins with their creation myth. They believe that their gods created the world one season at a time, starting with spring, and populated each season with its own beings. Along with spring, the gods created the children of spring, the Fae. These immortal nature spirits neither knew nor experienced death, so to this day they have no respect for life or death. Summer and summer's children came next, mortal men and women and natural animals. The gods felt giving the Fae mortality was a mistake, and therefore created summer's children with a limited lifespan. Since summer's children experienced all facets of life and death, they developed an appreciation and understanding of the joys and the pains that makes life what it is. The Tepestani considers summer's children to be the only trustworthy type of spirit. Autumn and autumn's children followed. The seasons came about because some of the gods felt they could improve upon summer, but failed miserably in their efforts. None could match the splendid creation that resulted when all the gods worked in consort. The creatures of autumn are all inferior and twisted reflections of the summer children: goblin, hags, lycanthropes, and other monstrous beings. Last in the order of creation was winter, as well as winter's children. Interestingly, all creation myths credit this creation to Mathoni, apart from the rest of the gods. He initiated his creation as an expression of spite towards the other gods, because none of them consulted him during their efforts. To this end, he had snow blanket winter and created the undead and elemental beings, strange reflections of spring's children, eternal as well, but utterly devoid of life. As the world was fully born, the gods agreed that in order to avoid the problems that arose with the children of spring on a cosmic scale, the world would eventually die. The Tepestani believe that subsequently, all of history follows the course of a single year as seen from the vantage of the gods. The world will follow the course of a single year and then it will end. According to Tepestani, we currently live in the autumn of creation. Untold eons ago, the Fae reigned without challenge and kept mortals in fear with chaotic and unpredictable magic. Eventually, mighty heroes arose among the mortals and forced the Fae into the wildest depths of the forest. As the Fae retreated, magic became more orderly, and humans became increasingly more powerful and important in the world. With the retreat of the Fae, the summer of the world began. During these earliest chronicle times, the Tepestani lived in numerous clans, each ruled by a clan lord or axe lord. The axe lords were feuding constantly, with their clans gaining and losing power quicker than the seasons changed, and accomplishing nothing of lasting consequence. Under the axe lords, the Tepestani lived in a rigid, strict society. The clans did not mix, and the sexes had specific roles and duties from which no deviation was tolerated. Unsurprisingly, a society so inflexible was also brittle, and doomed eventually to crumble. Tepestani bards tell that ancient order was brought low by the seduction of the Fae. Trying to ruin humanity and reassert their dominance over the world, the Fae crept back from the deepest, untamed wilds and secretly approached the wise women of each clan. The Fae promised each one that they would teach her how to tap into the raw magical power of the weave, manipulating it without the shepherding of the gods. The Tepestani agree that all but a few of the wise women refused the temptation, knowing no good can come of it. How many of them accepted the offer differs in the telling, but in most versions it's free. Those women did learn the magic of the weave, but the power was relentless, all-consuming. The women did indeed become mighty, but they also become hideous crones, their bodies warped by the merciless power of nature. The corrupted hags retreated to the forests. The Tepestani believe that with the elimination of the wise women, the Fae managed to draw the world from summer into autumn, where it remains today. Then, the forests around them started to change. And as the seasons wore on, more and more trees transformed, as soon all the forests of the world were blighted and hideous. Third, new and hideous creatures emerged from the transformed forests: goblin, hobgoblin beasts, and worse beings, children of autumn all. As ever more monsters beset the clans of Tepest, the old feuds faded away as the axe lords were forced to band together in order to survive. The old ways faded in the face of new reality, the power of the axe lords waned, and slowly, over the course of generations, modern Tepest came into shape. Tepest in 691 Barovian calendar faced a supernatural plague that they feared, signifying their world has entered its winter. The threat of starvation, however, forced them from their homes to seek food sources. That is when they discovered the lands beyond their forests. Nobles and the commoners along the borders in Darkon and Nova Vasa provided food and other assistance during the winter. The Vasta Lord Tristan Highguard was particularly generous in providing aid to the Tepestani, and to this very day, the people in and around Kili asked their gods to bless him in their daily prayers. When the Great Upheaval came in 740 Barovian calendar, the Tepestani fears were confirmed. When the initial chaos of the event passed, the simple woodland folk were horrified to discover that the western and southern neighbors, Gehenna and Markovia, had vanished. Entire lands and all their inhabitants were destroyed, with a gaping chasm full of rolling mists left in their place. To the Tepestani, this was a sign that the world's winter had finally arrived. One citizen disagreed. In Victal, a priest of Belenus named Wian saw the appearance of the Shadow Rift not as the end of the war, but as a devastating first strike in a resumed campaign by his people's eternal enemies, the Fae. He preached that there was still time to save the rest of the world if the people of Tepest would join him in resisting the immortal evil of Spring's children. Wian declared war on the Fae and established the Inquisition of Belenus to drive out the foul spirits of the forest before they could seduce more souls or take more lives. Wian held his first trials in the spring of 741. The Tepestani, who had huddled behind barbed doors and shouted by night, were predictably hesitant at first. Yet, by 743 BC, the Inquisition had taken root in the hearts of the Tepestani, and for the first time in generations, the people felt they had a hope of defeating the evils arrayed against them. The only exception was in the town of Kili, which had come under the leadership of a Alcovnian named Gerald Ferrier in 733. He and his family had opened an inn in the town 5 years before, and he had set himself the goal of making Kili more open and welcoming to merchants and other visitors to Tepest. A brief power struggle between the faithful of Belenus and Ferrier ensued, but Wian ultimately judged Ferrier to be righteous. If a bit wrong-headed, Ferrier organized militia was clearly a boon for all the people of Tepest. Then, a sudden and surprising turn of events caused the faithful of Belenus to pause. In the early autumn of 751, Wian's own daughter Lorelei had been manipulated by the Fae. She had fallen under the influence of a Burai, and the vile creature had subsequently twisted her mind and caused her to accuse falsely an innocent girl, a girl whom Wian almost executed. Wian's faith was shaken to its very core. He spent the next 2 years in a near-total isolation, rarely venturing from the compound house in his home and the temple of Belenus at Victal. There, he focused most of his attention on praying for guidance, mercy, and healing for his daughter's shattered mind. The rebirth of the Inquisition has its root within Kili and Gerald Ferrier's bastion of order. In early spring, the widowed Ferrier had taken a second wife, the long priestess of Belenus in his town. That winter, she gave birth to their first child, but one night as Ferrier was in their own business, she was violently murdered together with Ferrier's oldest daughter and a number of residents at the inn he operates. The infant vanished. Swift action on the part of the militia and Ferrier's remaining 2 children tracked and cornered the murderous kidnapper. The hunters came upon the creature as it was changing forms from Ferrier's barmaid to a hideous, grey-skinned monster and was about to sacrifice the baby under the full moon. Inquisitors from Victal were summoned, and Wian attended personally to an investigation for the first time in years. His judgment was that the Fae had struck back in a fashion so monstrous not seen since the Great Upheaval. He stated that he felt personally responsible for the death of the innocent people in Kili, primarily the woman who had devoted her life to Belenus. As in the year 757 Barovian calendar dawn, the Inquisition began prowling the communities of Tepest with renewed vigor. Thank you so much for your time, Persian listeners. Tepest is a land in turmoil, and it is dangerous to go alone. So please, take your friends with you, and be careful while crossing the mists.